BurgerFi hits the franchisor hot seat. Coming up next. I lied. Casey comes first, then comes BurgerFi. So Casey, what's your accidental franchise story? I know you accidentally fell into franchising. How did that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the story goes back, many, many years, with a parent company of ours. Deep rooted into the DNA of our parent company is a family business, and just truly a remarkable story of the owner and founder of our parent company. First got into this business as a 16-year-old boy that was taking over a pizzeria in downtown Detroit. And that evolved into just many, many different opportunities that led into, due to sudden and quick growth, the necessity required by the state of Michigan to actually become a franchise. So there's something that was forced and mandated that he was doing unintentionally. And that's led us to where we are today.
And that is that Fat Boys that starts this?
No, the genesis of our quest started with Happy Asker and Happy's Pizza, and started as a inline pizza place in downtown in the downtown hard neighborhoods of Detroit. And what led and catapulted the success was essentially being the only pizza place in the city in downtown Detroit that was willing to bring delivery into these rough neighborhoods. And there's genuinely some great people in those neighborhoods that didn't receive the services, whether it was from the police force or different services that are known to other people that are used to it. Pizza delivery and delivery of food was something that was taken away. And they just really quickly accepted and appreciated the willingness for a young entrepreneur to reactivate that platform and that option for them.
All right, you personally, so you're at Caesars Entertainment.
Okay.
And you come over as COO
for Fat Boys. Yeah.
So you're entering the franchise space in a traditional sense at that point. How is that transition for you?
It's been incredible. I mean, with Caesars, we function in with many different licensing agreements. So I had the pleasure of opening up the Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen and the Caesars Dubai property, and was part of that opening team. And in the portfolio, you have brands such as Nobu and Cake Boss, and as I mentioned previously, Gordon Ramsay. So in many capacities, I was on the other end of it as far as being a licensee. And so coming into this quest, certainly there were some commonalities and some things that I could be empathetic towards. Essentially the opportunity to just branch out and do something on our own was really the thing that interests me the most as far as getting out of corporate America and kind of trying to be part of a small family oriented team that grew to, the size we are today.
Out of curiosity, because none of these conversations are scripted, so it goes wherever it goes. And I think about on the franchisor side, if I said, "Hey, food franchisors, Casey's looking for something to plant into Caesars," they would all beat down the door and say, "Let me in! You guys should be licensing our brand."
Right.
When you're looking at franchise brands, most of the ones you just said are non-franchises. They're corporate entities that are breaking into the food spaces in there. But for a franchisor that was trying to knock on your door, was there anything that they could do to gain your attention to say, "This is why I want to be on," how I could get onto one of your properties?
Yeah, I mean, especially in the Caesars flags, I mean, there's a 40% EBITDA mandate per property. So, being a hospitality leader in that space is quite challenging because your vertical is always going to be the ones that eroding all the gaming margins. So the lead with any kind of Caesars Entertainment dialogue should first be economics, and then second be the complementary experience that is a driver, because it's a competitive space now, and there's to be a brand separator and be something that allows for the casino host to offer free food and free entertainment at a venue that is difficult to get in. That is definitely a compelling. That's a compelling element to it.
Was that the same for the food courts? And to hold a 40% net for a restaurant brand is really
I mean, yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. So as far as the philosophical belief on how you get in there, or from a performance standpoint,
either or.
Yeah. So, I mean, in order to get in there, like I'll give you an example of what we experienced when we converted the Harrah's New Orleans to a Caesars New Orleans property. There was a great deal of dialogue, and I was in the knucklehead at the end of the table that kind of battled a little bit with the president of Caesars Entertainment at the time, because they said, we're in New Orleans, we need to make this a Creole experience, and do it where, people go to New Orleans for the food. And, so as we're going down that plight, I'm from New Orleans, and I from my perspective, it's very difficult to recreate the authenticity of New Orleans, especially in a city that's that small. So the argument I made was, well, if we're going to go and put a bunch of Creole cuisine in this place, what's going to stop that consumer that comes to New Orleans from walking across the street and getting the 150-year-old restaurant that's been there, that knows how to do it, and they have these recipes, versus a very sterile environment that we would represent. And eventually, what we decided to land on was a celebrity-centric food court. So names like Nina Compton, who's an up-and-coming New Orleans chef, and she's and bringing in Buddy V and Bobby Flay, and trying to have this repertoire and portfolio of marketable names. So it's no longer a food court, but it is this, just really, really iconic featured people that are synonymous with great food, but in a food court environment.
I mean, that's genius, because I mean, the argument that I'm making, this goes to any brand, this could go to BurgerFi too, is you have to have a why you, why now. And so to the user, I'm obviously going to go to the casino to gamble. But if we're going to try having these other supplementary income areas in food and beverage, then why not have a theme that creates the answer why you, why now? Like look at the variation of flavors that you can get in here. And I think there's some of that carryover happens, like Fountain Blue going from Miami and open up the casino in Vegas. Like you could see they have almost that same blueprint of, let's try to add the celebrity focus into the way that
Sure.
So I think it's smart.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's get into the brand. So BurgerFi, obviously it's one of the brands in the portfolio, but give the backstory on the business and how you guys took it over.
Yeah, I mean, this is really, I've never been part of an acquisition before. I've been on, inside of a company that's been acquired before, but from an evaluation standpoint, I really, it was kind of a terrifying experience when you're going, all right, well, am I the person qualified to, make this assessment? I'll give you a quick story. So one of our brands is Savvy Sliders. It's approximately 50 store chain with about 50 in development. It's growing super fast. It's about 90% of the entire portfolio that we have. All of the growth is inside of the Savvy Sliders concept. We opened up 2 years ago. We signed a lease for a location in Tamarack, which is outside of the Miami area. It took 19 months to get a temporary permit. Approximately 40 months after the temporary permit, or after the initial lease signing, we got approval just last week to open up our drive-through. So, we realized, wow, if we want to get in this Florida market, which is a very dense and I think a market that a lot of brands are targeting, you also need to be able to get in there rapidly. And there was a lot of concern about our growth being thwarted by the opportunity to get into that market. And so what we did in the evaluation was we said, look, this might be an opportunity to get a distressed business that has a great deal. I'm live. All right, I'll call you. Sorry. So we looked at that as an opportunity to get into this really already set up business where we can get in really low cost. We can just convert these BurgerFis to Savvy Sliders and get in and have a 40 store footprint in that market. Well, we drove every one of those locations in Florida, and we fell in love with the brand after about number 3. We're like, oh crap, this is a badass concept. I don't know what went wrong, but man, this thing is badass. And you can kind of see the bones were there. And it happened organically, but we went in with an intent, and then it evolved into something completely different. We're like, boy, I don't know why it fell apart or how it fell off the rails, but this is something that all we have to do is reset a little bit. And so through that process, it's been one of the coolest things I've ever done is, looking at their historical P&Ls, and you go, well, they spent $13 million in corporate expenses. Like, we don't need to do that. We already have the corporate infrastructure. We don't need a $65,000 a month suite overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. So, I mean, there's just a series of these things like base hits that, I made like literally like a 4-line spreadsheet from a P&L standpoint. And, I was like, this just is going to pencil. So, we're going to not do all of these things, and we're going to go back to where it first was founded. It was established on great products, no hormone, no antibiotic, a brand you can trust. And then what they did over time was just kind of massage like the quality down and raise the prices. And literally all we're doing is just going, all right, let's take out this middle part of the life cycle of this brand and just go to the beginning.
I love that. And when we go offline, I'm gonna share some other opinions with you. But the brand, when it was coming onto the scene, it had the point of differentiation in a world that was really like the Better Burger world was created by five guys. Like, they did a tremendous job of building it up, but over time, the operations failed with what the positioning was, not BurgerFi, five guys. And so now you have all these brands that are in the marketplace, and it's completely wide open. Like, the burger consumer hasn't changed drastically. Sure. It's just that the way that these brands probably sold to the wrong franchisees and didn't perfect the operations and stay true to the core, all of a sudden some of the lure falls apart as it continues to expand. And that's why obviously you saw the opportunity and say, okay, we see a distressed opportunity, but here we can get in there and fix it.
Yeah, Nick, and I mean, just to, if you don't mind, if I can elaborate on some of the things. I mean, what we saw is, it appeared as though a lot of their growth occurred by seeing a franchisee do really well. And they said, oh, we like this market, and then we're going to open up another one, 3 miles away. And instead of having one really good profitable location, you diluted the sales, and now you have 2 stores that are doing mediocre. And then the growth was kind of like growing like a vine, like there's one here and one there. And what we do great, Nick, like we literally reinvest pretty much half of that royalty that we get for operational support in the market. So we're ensuring the integrity of our brand is layered with people that are corporate payroll expenses that are in that market, that are driving local area marketing initiatives, that are ensuring best-in-class guest experience, that are auditing the stores on a cadence that makes sense. So instead of just trying to grow, like what our objective is like, let's have great stores. And all these things like have been super fun because none of it, thank God, none of it's like been super hard. It's been hard work, but I mean, it's literally just going, all right, well, this is common sense. Let's do it. 86% of the entirety of the leadership now that's baked into the BurgerFi payroll are operators or former operators, including people in the accounting team, the marketing team. And so when we look at it, it's through this prism of, even if, does it make sense from a guest experience and from operational experience?
All right. So now I have a few additional comments. Like what you're doing with the brand, it's the same thing you did when you're at the board meeting talking about the point of differentiation in the casino in New Orleans. Like what you're saying is let's get back to creating purpose. And when there's 2 stores in a marketplace, it's diluting the customer. So how do we maximize it? The other thing, and I think this is a gift that you currently have because you're a professional who falls into franchising later in his career, you're coming with the lens of good business, and most franchisors don't. Most franchisors, if you say what's winning in the next year, they say we're going to sell franchises. It's like, well, sure, you could do that. You could get new blood into the system, but if you reinvest into the old locations and they increase their gross margins, you make more money in royalty. This isn't genius.
Yeah, it's it's a saying that we use a lot around here, which is, we want a little bit of a lot, and like we've had a lot of discussions with the BurgerFi franchise system in which they're like, hey, we're looking for some assistance, and or negotiating on the front end where people are trying to sign a multi-unit franchise deal, and they're looking for royalties. And we go, let's change the way we do this. Let's work on, we'll reinvest towards marketing. Instead of lowering your royalties, let's match you on that marketing spend. So we're coming out of pocket, but we're coming out of pocket with the mentality of growth as opposed to let's cut our way to success.
Well, the secret is you invest in marketing, the gross sales go up, you recoup recoup your investment right away through royalty. It's not like it's hard science.
It's not hard. Yeah, thank God.
Let's hit the investment. Obviously a little bit complex because you're taking a distressed brand, you're putting back the tools in place, and you're getting the foundation rebuilt. But cost to get in right now, how much you can make in item 19, what are you disclosing?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like really, we're still working on an FDD for BurgerFi. So what we have is pre-petition FDDs. So I'm not in a position to talk about like the BurgerFi growth model. Really, we're evaluating Drive-Thrus. We're great. We have an entire design and architectural team in-house. We're doing a great job of looking like at Drive-Thrus on second-gen locations and pulling that lever. Look, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 75-80% of the business out of BurgerFi was going, from dine-in, and now 75% of the business is going out the door. So we are shrinking the footprint from 3,500, 4,000 square foot venues, seeing how low we can get it. We literally had a meeting with a Modular group that presented a 1,200 square foot version with a walk-up window and a drive-through. So I mean, we are dead set on all of our brands, finding ways to get creative. I'll give you an example, and I know I'm pivoting out of BurgerFi, but we have a Savvy Sliders location in the Gulfport, Mississippi market. And, these guys are literally on pace after opening to recoup their initial investment in 6 months. I'm not saying that's what the model is, but when we mitigate their upfront capital, and we have look, I've made the mistake before on the Fat Boy side where we're spending $1.6 million in leasehold improvements, and it's a badass brand, but it's taking so long selling pizza and burgers to get that ROI that if we're finding that we can take some of these second gen locations and get in there for $500,000, $700,000, and really like start getting it where there's a return on that investment quickly.
I mean, I have historical relationship with BurgerFi, and so I say this, early on they were going after old Burger Kings. That was the real estate plan, which is a great strategy. Burger King spent tons of money on selecting that real estate, but it wasn't great selection for where the marketplace was going. Like it's almost like if BurgerFi would have targeted Checkers and Rallies in the early stages, that those smaller units, compact, that can get the food out the door and get it out for third party, extends the dining room into the home. And so what you're talking about, and a lot of restaurant brands don't think like this. They don't engineer the investment to be sound with the return, and or what the marketplace is actually saying. They like the bells and whistles. But franchisees, the smart ones, they don't care about the bells and whistles. They care about making money.
You know what, Nick? You know what? My phone get a text or an email every single day from the franchisee that opened their Gulfport, Mississippi location. Hey, what about this site? What about that site? And that's where we start winning, because he was looking at another slider concept and decided at the last minute he had a signed multi-unit franchise agreement, and he forfeited $75,000 to flip and come to Savvy Sliders. And the driving force behind that was that other brand was out parcels, land lease, $1.4-1.5 million investments on modular buildings that, they're challenging from a municipality standpoint. They're hard to find from a site selection perspective. And the return on investment is just substantially longer. And so we were able to, not necessarily even sell, just educate, like, this is our model. And, maybe the economics on the top line might be neutral, but, on the bottom, and what really matters most is how much money you're putting into your bank account. I think we win really, really a lot of times in that comparison.
Let's hit the vision.
What's winning in the next year for you? Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, I've never been more excited about like a concept and what we're doing with BurgerFi. It's fulfilling from a personal standpoint because you see these business owners and they've been through hell. We had lunch with somebody in Atlanta and we said, this is what we're going to do. And she goes, look, I love you, what you're saying. I'm excited to hear what you're going to do. But I'll be honest with you, you're number 16. And I'm like, what? Like, you're the 16th person with BurgerFi that's spoken to me. So, there's trepidation and there's like, put up or shut up. But Nick, what we're looking at doing is adding catering to it. We're bringing it back to the roots. We're getting rid of the seed oil. I think there's a huge opportunity with just the organic awareness through the FDA and making sure the food makes sense for feeding your children. And from my standpoint, I am blown away how great the franchise system is for BurgerFi, how much these individuals still love and believe in the brand, and they're wanting to grow. We have people just literally like a second ago when they looked in, they were introducing me to somebody that's here because they want to open up another BurgerFi. They're an existing franchisee and they're coming to meet our corporate office. And this to me is like, hey, let's slow roll it. Let's get it back to the roots. Let's roll out smart initiatives that are based on data and not based on like margins and going, hey, what's selling? What are our consumers asking for? Let's make sure the throughput's efficient. And I'm going to define it just by reestablishing this brand. 6 weeks ago, we acquired BurgerFi on December 13th, 2024. 6 weeks ago, we rolled out going back to the original burger blend that was changed. And we brought in the old Wolverine blend, the 75-25 patty. And that was like the only thing we've done so far. We've already seen just an incremental sales lift occur. And we're managing the consumer initiatives and reports. And those things are slightly improving. So, I see a series. There's not going to be any home runs here. There's going to be a series like these base hits. We're like, shit, man, that wasn't that hard. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, people buy from people. And so I hear everything that you're saying. I think is tremendous messaging that can help create the positioning. Like when you land on your franchise website, it says number one better burger brand. That's not a why now. What you just said is we're going to return back to the roots of what made BurgerFi great, and we're slow rolling it to a buyer. If I land on the franchise site and see that message, like that means one, you're not going to just let me in. And two, you've engineered systems and operations around a good product, which that's where things go haywire. When the operations and the systems aren't aligned with the product and you lead with the product eventually turns into the cost.
Yeah. And that's where I think we're really blessed to have a team of operators because, there's going to be a trend that comes out and it's going to be, the latest trend in food and beverage. But it has to be looked at through the lens of the operator. Does it meet the brand ethos? Does it make sense to the consumer? And then is it going to what if we put 6 more things on the menu that are fryers? Well, then guess what? We got throughput challenges, which exist in a lot of different concepts. And the menu looks great, but they can't get the damn food out in a time. So consumer experience suffers and the menu looks great. So I think we're going to see a lot of those things. And just kind of a hard pivot, as you asked me the question about winning, what we're already evaluating, what we've already done in our other brands is co-branding. So we take these 4,000 square foot BurgerFis that are in place and throw another damn flag on the building and put a secondary concept. We're seeing a great deal of return with the Fat Boys Savvy Sliders co-branding and the Happy's Pizza Savvy Sliders co-branding. We're exploring that now.
Well, look, very, very truthful statement. When I saw that my team booked a podcast with BurgerFi, I'm like, oh, this should be good. Actually, this is really good. Like you've sold me. I believe in you. So that I think that's good for a brand. Like when it came on the scenes, the buzz was so hot. And then when the expectations were set improperly, both with franchisees and customers, if you reset those things and cross apply some of the stuff that you're talking about, obviously you're gonna see wins. And I'm grateful that we had a chance to talk today.
Likewise, thank you.
For Casey, I'm Nick. This was another Franchisor Hot Seat.